Good morning, fellas. Good morning.
Morning, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mom. I know you out there as usual.
Good morning, Miss Debbie.
Definitely who I get it from. First there, every time. Well, G beats me sometime being first, but that's my only competition. You other two, we might see you, we might not.
Yeah, all right. Nah, not me.
But welcome to another team meeting where our mission is to distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and inspire you to change your mind, which will then inspire you to change your life. And in this episode, it definitely altered my belief systems and opened my mind. And I'm sure it will do the same for you all. I see you, Jess. It will do the same for you all once y'all see the information if you are not already aware. All right, boom, Jess. All right, here we go. So, of course, all of the places y'all can follow us: Instagram, Facebook, Game 7 YouTube. Game 7 Shop is the place you get all of your Game 7 apparel. Phil Fatah got some footage coming from my work over the summer, so we're eager to see that and share it with you. We had a great summer program, 2 of them. I'm curious to see how the kids are going to be when we come back to the complete school environment, but the summer programs was dope, to be determined for regular school environment. So the focus for the week, focus for today. College is significantly widening the wealth gap. It's not bringing it closer. It is making the wealth gap super duper wide. I did not expect this when I did this research. But college is significantly widening the wealth gap. So the median net worth, which we'll get into details what that means later, of households with Black college graduates in their 30s. That's the key for this presentation. We're only talking about 30s. So 30 to 39 and 364 days. Has plunged over the past 30 years to less than, no, my fault. The median net worth of households with Black college graduates in their 30s has plunged over the past 30 years to less than 1/10 the net worth of their white counterparts, according to the Wall Street Journal analysis of the Federal Reserve. So over the last 30 years, for Black Americans, our net worth has now plunged down to being worth 1/10 of our white counterparts. So if we worth 10 G's, they're worth 100. We're worth 100 G's, they worth a mil. So 1/10. The drop has been driven by skyrocketing student debt and sluggish income growth, which combine to make it difficult to build savings or buy a home. Now, the generation that hoped to close the racial gap is finding that it's only getting bigger. So student debt is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're owing collectively more and more and more and more and more and more money for getting education. But as we garner this education, the income increase is nothing. Like I know, speaking for Just and myself, he has multiple, I have one, and Mace is not on the call, but we all have graduate degrees. But I learned from Just, and I hustled and bustled my way into grad school. I did have to pay, but it wasn't that much. I think like 10 G's or something like that. But when I got my salary increase from school, it was like 4,500 or something. Like it was an increase, but it was very, very, very insignificant. So I paid more for the education than for my increase. And that's something that people experience across the board. So more money for education, making less money. So who has student debt? Let's spend some time here. So on the left side, 30 years old, 30 to 39, college educated black households. On the right side, college educated white households. So 30 years ago, 35% of black people in their 30s with degrees had student debt, and they owed about $6,000. And these numbers are adjusted for inflation, so we can directly compare. Today, that number has increased by just about 50%. Right? No, not 50%. I got the percentages coming next. 200%. $6,000 is now $44,000, and now 84% of people owe. So we went from 35% to 84% in terms of the percentage of people owing, and we went from owing $6,000 to $44,000. And once again, those numbers are adjusted for inflation. White households, age 30 to 39, college educated. Student debt, 27%, 30 years ago. Today, 53%. So that number just about doubled for them too. And they owe from $8,000 30 years ago to $35,000 today. All right, so what's the increase? So the black debt percentage increase 240%, from 35% to 84%. So just about 2.5 times as many people owe money. For white people, it's just about twice the amount of people, 27 to 53. So 240% increase for blacks, 196% for whites. In terms of the amount owed, from 6 Gs to 44 Gs, 733%. So we're paying just over 7 times as much to get our college education. And for the white community in the 30s, they're paying just over 4 times as much. So over the past 30 years, for both demographics, obviously for us more people owe more money to go get a college education. 7 times as much and 4 times as much. But meanwhile, the black graduates' household incomes have grown far more slowly than other college graduates in general, according to a journal analysis of the census data. None of this is my opinion. All of this is research-based. So, college-educated black households, the median income has increased 7% from the 90s to the late 2010s. So about the last 20 years or so, 20 to 30 years. White communities, the income has increased 13%. Our income cap for the median is $76,000. Their income cap for the median, $114,000. So we increased 7% to 76 Gs, and they increased 13% to 114,000. Okay, so the median wealth of households by race and educational attainment. So this is by far the most powerful piece of information here. So fellas, after this slide gets up, if y'all need me to slow down, just let me know. So that's the graphic, but I got some data from the data. So first off, the median net worth for black households with degrees 30 years ago was $50,400. So that's this bar right here. All right, this brown, yellow kind of color. All right, 30 years ago, $50,400 net worth. Today, $8,200. So we went from $50,400 black college educated people in America, age 30 to 39, went from $50,400 30 years ago net worth to $8,200 today. All right. The median net worth for a white household with degrees 30 years ago, it was $118,000. The wealth gap, comparing to 30 years ago for black households, 234%. So they're making 2.25 times as much money as us, 30 to 39 with degrees 30 years ago. Today, their wealth has increased. Ours has dropped 84%. Theirs has increased 17%. We can put them numbers together. That's over 100% difference. So going from 8,200 for us today, everybody on this call is a part of that demographic, right? $8,200 to them today, meaning white people age 30 to 39 who have college degrees, to 138 G's. That is a 1,683% difference in terms of the wealth gap. So the more we get college educated, the more our net worth has dropped. The more they get college educated, the more their net worth goes up. Totally opposite correlations. And we've dropped by 84% net worth. They've increased by 17%. And if I really had the time, like if I was still in school, I would like to then break this down by male and female. And I'm sure that the numbers are probably different in terms of better for the black females, and the numbers are different in terms of worse for the black males. Like we just know that we're going on two totally different trajectories in terms of the genders in our community and education. All right, so net worth. Net worth is calculated by subtracting a person's liabilities, such as your mortgage, your college debt, and other things that you have to pay for that don't generate you income directly, subtracted from your assets, right? Like homes, stock holdings, businesses, everything that puts money in your pocket, right? So assets minus liabilities give you net worth, right? So everything that you own and brings in money minus everything that takes out money, and what you're left with is your net worth. All of this is based off of that. All right, so 2021 today. If you're a black adult without a degree, it's pretty much over for you. All right, look at these numbers. It's over for you. Like now you can go to the league, you can be a first round pick, you can be a rapper, you can be some tech guru, you make some kind of app. You're a super plumber, you got a trade. Like it's not impossible, because that's a bold-faced lie. But looking at the masses and the data collectively, it's really over for you, unless you just got some super talent or you some kind of prodigy where you didn't need a formal education, right? So it's like you got to go to college if you want to be in the mix. Like you have to, right? But then at the same time, maybe you don't, because today's numbers, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but they both at the bottom. So, but if you wanna be in the game, you more or less gotta get a degree. The net worth of white degree holders has increased while it has plummeted for black degree holders. Said that already. The net worth for white non-degree holders, so that would be here, right? White non-degree holders, it has decreased. It went from just over probably about 60 or so, 65, to now under 50. It has decreased, but it's still about 500% higher than blacks with degrees. So in terms of net worth, the white person without a degree, on average, has about 5 times as much net worth in comparison to a black person with a degree. So white, no degree, according to this data, money-wise and worth-wise, you're doing, on average, 5 times better than a black person, ages 30 to 39, with a degree. All right? So all in all, the more we get educated formally, the more money we owe, and the more our net worth decreases. What's up, Ms. Kim? Y'all leaving comments for each other. Good morning, moms. So over time, our debt has increased and our assets have not, and it's been the opposite for the white community. All right, average cost of tuition, fees, room, and board. So as you can see, the top is private, the bottom is public. So over the years, they both increased 10 to 20, 20 to over 40. So since 1987, both total costs for private and public education have more than doubled. So college costs have soared in recent years, as shown, but black students get less help from their parents and families to cover those costs. So black families, on average, they contribute 34% of the families with kids in college contribute to their kids' college education. So 66% do not. And on average, these 34%, they contribute 16 G's. So 34% of black Americans with kids in college contribute 16 G's to their kids' college education. White communities ages with kids in college, they can 64% of them contribute in comparison to 34, so just about double, and they contribute 73,400. So 16, 32, 48, so just about 5 or 6 times as much. So about double of them contribute, and they contribute about 5 or 6 times as much to their college education. All right, so black households are less likely than white ones to own stocks, retirement accounts, or homes, the traditional means for building long-term wealth in America. According to 2018 research by Edward Wolf, an econ professor at NYU, about 41% of black college-educated households in their 30s owned homes during the late 2010s, down 2% from the early 90s, but still 25% less than white Americans. So black people own less homes in America. The number's decreasing, and we're got just under about half as much as white Americans. As per the Brookings Institute, regardless of the income they make after graduation, black households carry more student debt, which pushes down their creditworthiness. Unsurprisingly, then, black people with a degree have a lower home ownership rate than white high school dropouts. The researchers also find that student loan debt can delay or change a household's decisions on a number of issues: where you live, what type of work you do, starting a family, or launching a business. All right, so let's take a step back. We already know that black college-educated people have a lower net worth than white non-college educated people. And this one says that black college-educated people own less homes than white high school dropouts. Two big pieces, in my opinion. And this is also stating that after you go to college, you did everything you're supposed to do. You got straight A's. You got up on time. You used time management. You didn't get caught up with the boys and the girls in the clubs or whatever. Now you get to the real world and you're getting smoked because you got all of these, I'll call them liability assets. It kind of depends on how you use them. But you got all of this weight that you're carrying with you while you're getting started. And in terms of being formally educated at this kind of level, most of us are the first in our family, and not a lot of our families have much going on to where they can really help us. It was like you got everything on your back and you starting from zero and you're getting paid zero. So that affects where you live, what you do for work. You take those slave jobs like me and G did in the retail management space, because like that's the only thing we had going on. Or you don't get a job, or you got to move to Nebraska because it's your only offer, or whatever the case may be. So when you're graduating with tons and tons of weight that you're carrying with you. So here's where my opinion comes in based on my research. So this system is eerily similar to sharecropping. So let's break down why that is. Once again, this is my opinion. So this is real, sharecropping, but the correlation is my opinion. A white landowner will contract with a black laborer to plant and harvest crops. So a white person owns a farm, hypothetically, they got black people to work on it, okay? And now there's a contract. You work for me on this crop, this is what we're gonna do. So since the black worker doesn't have any land or money, the white landowner will give him credit at stupid interest rates, sometimes as high as 3/4, 70, 75%. So this is so he can take care of his basic needs, food for his family, get any tools, seeds, fertilizers, things he needs to do his job, right? Very similar to working. So many people have these jobs that they absolutely despise, but they need to pay rent. They got kids that need to eat. They want to be a man that can pay the bills. They want to be an independent woman. Their mom or dad is sick. They need money for health care. Whatever the things are, like things you just need to live, not a big lavish lifestyle. All right. Step 3. So for working, the black worker is paid a share of the crops that he produced, minus any expenses owed to the white landowner. Right? So you bring in some revenue from the corn, the cotton, or whatever it was, and you'll get a percentage of it. But first, I need my bread back that I gave you to get that food for your family and to get the harvesting materials and all that other stuff, right? Just like the companies how they do the comparisons between the CEO and the average worker. They're getting paid, I don't know, exponentially more than the worker, right? Or some companies you work, if you meet a certain threshold in terms of achievement or time, you get a share or a percentage of shares of the company, right? But those are 9 times out of 10 Class B shares. Like you got a share, but you're not making no moves. You have a portion while you're doing most of the work. Step 4. All terms and conditions for all aspects of the contracts are set by the landowners. The interest rate, the market rate for the crops, every single thing is made by the landowner. You have no say. Yo, I got this job for you. I know you got a master's degree. I know that degree cost you 50 G's, but you're only going to get 45. Sorry, there's a cap. Right? Oh, you've been here for 10 years? I might give you 60. You can go somewhere else. Right? It is what it is. And those rates are dictated by the market. I know that's an experience. I'll let y'all speak on it. But one of us on the call has like, yo, I got all these qualifications. This is the bread I make. This is what I should get. And this is not a lofty expectation. My bad, bro. Like, this is where you live. This is what you get. Take it or leave it. All right? So all the contracts, all aspects of the contracts are mandated per the landowner. So the landowners were aware that any worker who fully cleared their debt could relocate to a different property, but maybe a little better owner, somebody who works with you a little better. So they routinely exaggerated, blew them out the water, the interest rates and all the other demands on the contract. So virtually no sharecropper could ever meet the contractual obligations. So you get these student loans for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 200, whatever amount of thousands, and then you get a job, and more or less you can never pay them off unless you find a way to turn your income line geometric, right? Most people don't. They get their step increase every year. They get their raise whenever. Most people don't start businesses. Most people don't actually absolutely kill it in the business like Steve Ballmer did, who's a billionaire, who had a regular job, who was not a business owner, right? Most people never hit that pinnacle. They're paying these bills back, paying these bills back, paying these bills back, paying these bills back, paying these bills back. Because basically, you had to go to college if you wanted any kind of opportunity. The opportunities are very, very limited if you're a black man and you're not college educated. So if the black worker disputed the contract, he could face violent and lethal consequences. We all know. A breach of this contract by the black worker was criminal and punishable by law. Work your contract or you go to prison. So if you breach the contract, you're going to jail. The workers, however, they didn't have to get the contracts. But how else were they going to make money? There was really nothing else to do, right? Unless you was a boxer or you was the one Jackie Robinson or literally the one at that time who could have some other kind of meaningful income, you can get a pass. But those who didn't work were considered vagrant. And that was a crime that was punishable by law. So if you didn't have a job, you was going to prison. First thing they're going to do is, all right, what are you doing for money? There's really nothing you could do besides be a sharecropper unless you were one in a million. So if you disputed the contract, you went to jail. You argued the contract, you went to jail. If you didn't get a job, you went to jail. So basically, you had to find yourself in this situation and you got buried under this credit because it's what you had to do to make a living. Otherwise, you had to be one in a million. Eerily similar situation to this college education thing, in my opinion. Last slide. So what's the solution? Number one, make more money. We know, it ain't fair, but although it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility. Like, you was born black in America, Unless you're gonna go Akon and build your own city, your own community, you're gonna have to find a way to fit in. Remember, wages make you a living, but profits earn you a fortune. Wages come from jobs. They cool, they serve a purpose for a time, in my opinion. But eventually, you got to get to a point to where you own the point of sale. So you're not getting the shares, you're getting the big shares and dishing off the little ones to everyone else. As Just always says, learn the rules, play the game. So number one, you got to find a way to make more money. Number two, relationships are essential because it leads to more minds and more pockets contributing to obtain more assets. All right. So, all right, you're a single man. It may be your time to be single, but ideally, you should find a partner, a woman, a man, a neutral, whatever your thing is. Find somebody to learn and grow with. So now that income, and ideally they're college educated or they're self-educated to where they got multiple streams coming in, or at least one strong or steady stream, right? To where you can combine, right? Or maybe they'll introduce you to another way to make money, or another way to raise your kids to where they're set up for the future, right? And not just intimate relationships. We all have a relationship on this call, all right? Once we hang up from this call, we get on a more personal call to where we bounce things off of each other and use this relationship to make more money or to make us better people, right? Or have better relationship with your teachers, your principals, your bosses, your CEOs, your neighbors, right? More minds and more pockets is better than just your mind and your pockets. I don't care how much money you make. This is the same thing that millionaires, billionaires, and trillionaire Jeff Bezos would say. All right. So relationships are essential. Make more money, build and fortify relationships. But this part is the most important, in my opinion, in terms of being directly correlated to college education. So first thing is be intentional during those K through 12 years. All right. Ideally, you want to get your son or your daughter to go into college for free and or at a minimal cost, right? Now, sometimes if you just don't like the school, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. It might be better to pay a little more to where you're going to go somewhere to where you're not going to suffer for 4 years. I get it. Like, we're not robots. But the more intentional you are K through 12, the more opportunities they will have for that 13 through 16 years, right? Those college years or those young adult development years, or maybe you go to trade school and get a bunch of certifications, or maybe you go to Full Sail and learn how to do music as a business and not just as a talent. So be very, very intentional K through 12. School, sports, community, networking, teaching them to use social media, tech work, relationship work, mentoring, every single thing you can do to get your kids or your brothers, your nieces, your nephews, your students to learn K through 12 is going to play a major, major role in those 13 through 16 years, right? Because we all seen, especially KG, Just Mace, even Pizzle from a distance, and myself, 12th grade, people think it starts, and it kind of does because commencement means beginning, but when Usain Bolt or all these other athletes lined up for that Olympic race, the start of the race was more like the end. They've been busting their behind for 15, 20, 30, however many years just to make it to that start, right? So you get a much, 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 much better start when you're more prepared. So make more money. The odds are stacked up against us. It is what it is. Make more money, build fortified relationships, and be intentional with those K through 12 years. All right, so let's go down the line. GKG, Pizzle, and then all great thoughts.
All right, so man, the information is staggering. It's not a surprise, but when you put it like that, it's crazy to see the disparity. So as you're talking, I wrote down 4 different points that I think are key as you start to go, as you leave high school and start to go into college. The first thing is bachelor's is the new high school diploma. Back in the 90s, when when more black people, more brown people started to get into college, the bachelor's was the bar. But naturally, as you start to add more people into a select group, the qualifications change. So it's not really enough today to get a bachelor's. So that's one thing that you guys should know. The second thing is when we talk about college costs, one thing that people don't do enough of that I think is a huge advantage in that respect is community college. You can go to community college for 2 years. It's going to be significantly cheaper than whatever you pay for a 4-year university. Transfer for your last 2 years, still get that college experience, and graduate with a much smaller bill at the end of it. The third thing you briefly touched on, Mount, is trades. College is not for everybody, and you don't have to go to college to be successful, but you got to have a plan outside of that. And I think something that I've noticed in reading a lot recently is that trades are coming back, and you can have a very successful, very fruitful life with trades. So that's welding, plumbing, electrical, etc. And then the last thing, this is to me maybe the biggest thing, and it's almost unfair because when you graduate high school, they ask you what you want to be when you grow up, what you want to do when you grow up, and chances are you don't know. But the first thing you do when you get into school is pick a major, and part of that to me, I feel like it's unfair. But I think our kids need to do, and we need to help them do a better job of understanding the job prospects for some of these majors that they're selecting when they go into college. Because I'm sure if we did the research, it's a huge disparity between, say, STEM and medical science degrees when you're leaving college and some of the other degrees. So that's not to say that you can't go to school and be a dance major or an arts major or whatever, but you got to understand realistically what you're signing yourself up for when you leave school 4 years after you start. So again, part of this falls on the parents, but also as kids going into school, you got to treat college like a business. You got to do your research. You got to look ahead so that you're planning now to reap benefits when you graduate. And really, the final thing I'll touch on, a lot of this disparity is also because those in the white community are giving their kids a head start. And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. It is what it is. Like you said, investing, savings plans, those types of things are what gives those kids extra buffer before they even get started. And granted, maybe we struggle to do that in the black community as a whole because we're so behind in terms of net worth. But there are some plans where you can put in a couple dollars a month. And I think at the end of the day, anything helps. And we need to do more of that in our community and educate each other more about those types of plans so that when our kids get to high school and they graduate high school, they're not going into college with nothing. Even if it's $10,000 or $15,000, in addition to the 16 that we're contributing, that reduces that bill at the end of the 4 years. So I think if we can do that for them, it gives them maybe not the leg up, but it gets them closer to being on an equal playing field.
Yeah, I agree. And just to piggyback on you a little bit, G, for sure. You know, I don't have any kids, obviously, but I understand that coming out of school and basically going into an unknown world is pretty scary, and especially if you coming out there with a bunch of debt and not a lot of money in your account, which is often true, if you're a college student. So having the ability to help your kids in that aspect is a huge thing that needs to be addressed in the community. And just like you said, G, from our parents not having a lot because they're still trying to catch up. As we all know, in Game 7, it ran into the family until it ran into me type of mentality. So, you can do your children and their future lives a huge service for sure. But yeah, a lot of this information was actually a little mind blowing. I didn't expect it to increase so much. But one thing I want to preach is exposure. Right. Oftentimes, a lot of people don't know what they want to do when they go to school. Right. Like a lot of and that's still true to this day. But having exposure and allowing your child to be in experiences that they can do different assignments or make do different things to tease their brain will allow them to maybe have a little bit of better idea of what they want to do. And I would agree with the G as well about, start looking at college as a business decision, because a lot of people just go there and really want to just go for the social aspect, which is obviously a great part of the experience. But when you go in and knowing something that you want to do is going to be good. Like when I went into college, I always knew I had the mindset of serving others and things like that. Did I know exactly what I wanted to do? No. I chose sociology, but because I was also focused on football as well. It worked out for me because now I work in schools where I have to work with people and understand social emotional learning, and a lot of the theories and things that I learned in college align to what I'm doing now. So fortunately, it worked out for me because I knew myself in a sense. So the more experience and exposure that you can place and push on to your child as they're growing up to allow them to do different things will hopefully stimulate their mind enough so they can kind of have an idea of what they want to do. So when they go into college, it's a little bit more of a direct, correlation to what they want to do. So when they pick their major, they can pick it accordingly, and it aligns to really what they want to do, which will hopefully allow them to gain some capital pretty quickly.
Definitely some great points. And KG, to kind of piggyback off that, I'm definitely huge on exposure, right? I think that we need to do a better job. Parents need to do a better job with their kids. And then like the fundamental ages. So like in high school, 9th, 10th grade, and students as well as like volunteering for different clubs. I remember back in high school, I signed up for the robotics club and I was in there, but it exposed me to so many different like individuals and just different terms and just different knowledge that it boosts me that way. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to go to A&T to be an engineer, right? But it was just that exposure of going into a program and being a part of something that actually gave me a different sight into a whole new world. So I think that exposure is very, very big because you don't know where you're going to go if you've never seen it before. And another thing that I think that is very crucial, I know Malk was naming a few solutions, but I think another thing is to have is to seek a different degree or to seek a degree from a different type of school. I had the pleasure of doing a wedding a few weeks ago, and the guy was Pakistani, and I talked to him. I noticed he was very, very cool, real laid back, real swaggy. And I was like, what school did you go to? And he was, I went to Howard. And I'm like, all right, cool. Must be Howard in California or Howard in Maryland or somewhere else. And he was like, no, Howard University. And I was like, damn, man, that's crazy. And now I keep talking to him. He's in medical school or dental school in Massachusetts, and then he's doing something else. And then it made me really think about how many people we saw from other cultures at Howard University, or how many people we've seen go to other cheaper schools where they're able to get that advantage versus going to like a top medical school or a top pharmacy school or something like that. So find a way to get a degree at a cheaper school, which will then give you the advantage to automatically start financially ahead of everybody. And then lastly is to seek like scholarships, right? I think a lot of companies, especially now, they love to give money out to African Americans. They got this big pot of money for African Americans, whether they're not scholarships, grants, different things like that when you're in high school. So I think it's very important that kids actually apply for this money and actually try to get the money and get the funding that would then help them out later on. I was talking to a coworker, and she was telling me about a friend who was having issues with giving out scholarship money specifically for Black children because no one was applying for it. And it's like, and she was basically complaining because she was saying that they have basically every single year they have a huge pot of money that they have to just waste and give it back because no one applies for the scholarship money in order to get it and be granted, towards the next tuition. So I think it's very important that you seek ways to get scholarships, you seek ways to get the additional funding, tuition assistance, or anything like that to kind of financially help the person while they're in school. So I think, looking at those three ways is another way to combat this this huge situation, really.
All what? Great points.
All great points.
Great points. I definitely identify with all of the points that you gentlemen made. I have a couple that I wrote down during this conversation. The first one that stuck out to me was definitely echoed, which is make an informed decision about your career path when entering college. But the reality of being able to do that at 18 years old really comes from the culture setting from either your community or your household. Having those conversations prior to college, having those conversations in middle school, understanding that there is a reason why you're attending school every day. With college not necessarily being like a long shot. That's why so many schools, especially in urban communities now, there's this focus on college going culture. If you plant a seed in a young person's life early enough, actualizing that goal is not far-fetched, right? Me and Malcolm did a great job of taking the lead, and Kendall, my fault, of taking the lead and understanding that we wanted our trajectory to be different from the rest of our peers when we were in middle school. We applied for a program called New Jersey Seeds. It was clear that New Jersey Seeds was going to help us to get into college prep schools. So the reality of it is that in middle school, we had the idea, the concept, maybe not actually the details, but we knew that college was going to be a near term goal for us, essentially, right? And there was certain work that we had to do in order to change that reality. Also, it's essential that either prior to entering college or definitely during your first year to identify an internship path, okay? Yes, I understand that college is a social experience, but it shouldn't be the majority of it, all right? The reason why you are leaving your home is to complete a task, all right? It is the reality of changing your trajectory, whether your family was successful or not, and you have to identify that as such. So for me personally, I understood that if I went to college and I couldn't make money after, it was a failed mission. Honestly. Now that looks very, very different from me because I've always been money focused, right? Everyone on this call can tell me that I'm synonymous with whether the first time they met me or over the span of our relationship, just as finding a way to make more income, right? Got a full-time job, got to hustle on the side. No full-time job, definitely hustling and putting pieces of the puzzle together so that money's not constantly an issue, right? So I bring that up because while identifying internship path, you create opportunities to make money while you're in school. Yes, it does cost extra money to go to school, but it's not like you have to sit stagnant in the process of adding on to this debt. You understand? It's important to make money while you're in college, right? And that can be from summer internships. All right, I'll share. When Malcolm was at Howard, I went to Virginia Tech undergrad. I hadn't seen him in a couple years. I hit him up. I wound up getting a internship in Silver Spring, Maryland. I made $10,000 that summer, right? Now, maybe now as an adult, that's not that much money, but to a college kid, man, that set me up to be able to pay my rent the entire next year. It paid for my stuff in storage to stay in storage down in Virginia the year after. It helped me budget for groceries, and it just helped me not to enter into school with even more debt, right? So it's important to be able to make money during school. If your only time, based on however you manage your responsibilities, that happens in the summertime, then you have to make sure that you're making logical decisions about what that summer income can look like. But for me, if I had it to do over again, if I was to coach up my child or a young person that was committed to this vision, I would say identify a skill set that is needed on a college campus, right? If you're a male or female, learn to cut hair, right? Most college campuses are not in the middle of cities. You're relying on maybe, a barber that may or may not fit your needs based on where you're at, all right? Build a skill set like that. There's endless heads to cut on a college campus. If you're a female, you enjoy doing hair, do hair, right? This is a skill set that you can build prior to getting on college campus. You can market yourself on IG or just continue to just build the skill, quite honestly. You can Uber Eats. You can do Amazon drop-offs in your car. You can rent a motor scooter or whatever these different, scooters are. You can get a bike, right? Most of the time, there's an opportunity for you to drop off within your campus. Look at how many times, young people order from Amazon at this time. All right. You can throw parties, right? You can network with friends, put money together, rent out a space, throw parties, right? And identify people's needs on campus and just essentially fill them, right? I'll also echo G's point about identifying a career that pays. That's essential, right? I guess the only aspect upon maybe freshman or sophomore year, when you're asked to make a decision on your major, yes, it's important to do something that you love, but the reality of it is, young people, when you make a decision to do something you love and it doesn't pay, it doesn't sustain your interest. That's the reality of it. All right. I may love to write poetry. That might be my God-given gift. But guess what? That's probably going to land me on a joker's couch for a series of years after college. You know why? Because that's a skill set that isn't necessarily valued in our society that will allow you to be financially stable from the get-go. Okay. Not to say that you can't become the world's best renowned poet, but that's probably not going to happen after launching from your graduation stage, right? And I'm not saying don't follow that, right? But it's important to make informed financial decisions, because if you do not, you become a burden to the people that have to be responsible for your well-being after college. And the reason for you to go to college was to ensure that you were no longer a burden to people. You could have stayed home, you understand, and figured it out there without the big bill. So I'm sorry that it's harsh, but it's facts though, right? Pick a location after college, right, where the market is strong. All of us here on this call, we live in DC. I mean, or the DMV area. I mean, this by far is a market that pays. It'd be something very, very different if we chose to move to, no disrespect for any of the middle states in America, but the economy is completely different for doing the same exact job. Ensure that you make intentional connections with companies that are in these high price markets or these high income markets. That's your job during undergrad or during grad school, to make yourself known, to establish the relationships, to ask them what they're looking for in potential employees or potential partners, right? And make sure that you build those skill sets. All right. I'm going to speed through the rest of these. I know I'm lasting a little bit longer, but essentially, after college, right? A lot of the conversation is how people after college, Black people after college, get in debt and stay in debt. I'm going to share with you my path. All right. To not allow that to be my reality. When you get out of college, keep your same lifestyle that you had in college. Remember your income when you were in college, undergrad people, you was broke. You was absolutely broke. But you found a way to actually live. Now you get out of college, you have an income. If you would have had that income while you were an undergrad, how sweet would your life have been? Wow. If somebody gave me $40,000 when I was in college, if they gave me $50,000 when I was in college, boy, I would have been able to make that stretch. Make it stretch when you get out of school. You understand? Keep the same lifestyle that you had while you were in college. You have roommates in college. Guess what you need to do when you get out of college the first 5, 6, 7, 8 years? You need to have yourself some roommates so that you can keep that most of that money for you, right? Don't buy a new car, right? You probably didn't have a brand new car in college, or maybe if you happen to come from a family where, I don't know, maybe they paid your bill for you. That wasn't my case. I just lived a completely different reality. You understand? I kept my expenses very, very similar to the way that they were in college. I made sure I had roommates. When most people say, hey, but now I have this big bill when it comes to the loans that I owe from being in school, right? Open an LLC for $100 to $300. Log all your expenses, right? Keep track of your mileage. Every time you go out to eat, log it in an Excel spreadsheet. Every time you go to Home Depot for whatever, log it in your Excel spreadsheet. When you do your taxes that year, that drastically lowers your income. That is the income that is reported to whoever holds your loans. And now guess what? Your income-based repayment, which is the goal of what you should be in post-college, right? Income-based repayment, how they are calculating your payment is based on your income that has been slashed due to you sharing what your expenses are, right? I will tell you personally that for many years, my income-based repayment for my college loans has been zero. All from having that approach, from spending $100 to $300 on opening an LLC, from being diligent every time I'm at the cash register. Before I walk away, I got my Excel spreadsheet. How much was that? $28.76. Wait 1 minute, man. I'm putting it in my Excel spreadsheet, right? I don't need an accountant to do that for me. I'm diligent in my approach because I'm aware at the deficit that I've entered this market in. Okay. There are changes in the wealth gap because many Black people don't come out of college with a plan and with a plan to be successful financially. Most Black people think of realities when they are very close or when they are happening. That just happens to be an unsuccessful approach, unfortunately. All right. Also, many Black people get a degree without knowing the realities of any launch targets after school. Okay. There are two phases that happen in life when you're approaching. There is launch to that goal once you've identified that goal, and understanding how long you have to stay in launch in order to experience something called steady state. Okay. Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos just launched into outer space. Most of the work that machine has to do is getting from the ground into orbit. That takes time, that takes endless effort, that takes extreme focus to break through all of those barriers. Once they get into outer space, they are coasting. If you notice, that's when they start taking pictures. That's when they start recording. They don't take pictures during the launch, though. You understand? They're more so in an extremely focused state, ensuring that what we've done is going to be safe and it's going to get us to our goal. And that is essentially what needs to be the focus of young people, regardless of your color, when you're in undergrad and into your first job in the first series of years. Understand that you are still in launch. You don't get to reap the benefits of being in steady state where you have a higher income. Now you have, bills that are steady, where you've identified a lifestyle that now is conducive with your income. So now you can do the extra things like go on vacation, get a car note, things of that sort. All of these bills that you create from believing that you're in steady state now because you're not used to having money is what actually continues to put gravel in that backpack that you carry. Okay. I also noticed that white people without a degree. Okay, so white people without a degree are more wealthy than Black people with a degree because we honestly just don't have financial literacy. All right. That's the reason why every single year when Black families get these large tax returns for having whatever, whether it's a low income or multiple kids, you get an income tax for 8 G's, 10 G's, 12 G's. And the government don't have no problem giving it to you because they know that you don't make smart decisions financially. And that's not a shot at you. It's just that giving you 10 G's, 12 G's, we know that that's not going to multiply throughout the year. That's gonna cycle back into the economy because you spent the entire year, you didn't make more. That means that you're not financially successful. It's not going to be a threat or competition to me by giving you a lump sum that I already have to spend anyway, right? How do you change that reality? Give Jeff Bezos $12,000. You better believe he's going to make it do backflips. Give a CEO or give a financially aware person $12,000. They're going to ensure that that thing grows, or at the very minimum, it doesn't decrease. Okay, so increasing your financial literacy is how you change that reality. And then also, it's important to understand that the norms of spending are different based on your culture. Okay, think about the young person who gets the $40,000 job after undergrad, who has never had money, or the $50,000 job. You will see the difference on that individual who is coming from a family who doesn't have money. There's something on them that changes. All right, whether it's where they eat at, whether it's the car that they drive, whether it's the jewelry that they have, whether it's the clothes that they're wearing. Something changes because money is a new addition to their life, and being responsible with that is a very, very hard or unfathomable expectation to give them. So once again, financial literacy. I'm coming up on my last 2 points. A Black person that struggles with money. All right, I already stated that one. It was hard. This is the last point that I made. White people contribute more to their child's college education. I forgot what the number was, but I remember that Black people's contribution was $16,000 a year. Okay. So the reality of it is that your child is 18 years old and you only have 16,000. Okay, thank you, Mel. On average, 64% of white families contribute an average of over $73,000, while let's say a third of Black families contribute $16,000. Both of their children are 18 years old. Both of their children are 18 years old on average when you enter school. You telling me that for 18 years, you are not diligent enough to save $1,000? You are not diligent enough to save less than $1,000. That means to me that your focus as an adult was not, maybe it was the idea for your kid to go to college, but you weren't committed to it, right? Maybe it was an opportunity that came up and you guys just didn't think it was possible for your kid. So therefore the reality is that I've stepped into something that I haven't planned for, right? Or maybe you're expecting someone else to foot the bill. Maybe that's not your exact intention, but you don't believe that you should be responsible for paying this large bill. When in fact, to me, it's unfortunate that's even the mindset too, because this is directly connected to my faith, but like I sit in expectation. I literally sit in expectation. I believe that the work that I put in at any stage in my life is going to produce fruit, because I'm saying no to all the other things that won't produce fruit. So I'm sitting in expectation that if I'm 12 years old and I'm doing this extra work and I get a chance to meet Malcolm, who lives in a different part of the state, and he connects me to his cousin who's younger than us, but also in this program, that I'm not going to have the same reality as the people around me. I'm sitting in expectation. So guess what, Mom? Guess what, Dad? I'm going to go to college. I know I'm 12. I know nobody else in this household has done so, but I'm going to need y'all help. I'm going to need y'all spending habits to be a little bit different. To this day, from me being 10 years old, I'm walking in Marshalls with my mom. I'm walking in the supermarket with my mom. Do we really need that? Like for real, Mom, we really, really need that? You need that shirt? Mom, I'm going to be honest, I really don't need them shorts. I really don't, right? I'm going to like them now. In about 2 weeks, I'm probably not going to wear them that much, right? Because I consistently had an idea that I understand that there's a bill that needs to be met as I get older. And I don't want to hear that that's not the reason why I can't get to where I belong, because people who are in positions to make decisions that I can't make weren't responsible. Like, I'm not willing to accept that. And the reality of it is that if I'm an adult and I continue to preach college to my kid, I'm a part of the reason why they're entering this world in debt. I honestly, I'm the reason why my child has now did their part to be successful in high school, in middle school, get themselves an opportunity to go to undergrad or to grad school, and they've got to continue to take out money and have this gravel backpack, right, of loans and debt, and they can't necessarily enjoy the fruits of their labor without this huge mountain of debt, right? When I seen that reality, because the majority of us as adults, we live in debt. Why would you not do your best? And that says no to eating out, no to Olive Garden, no to Fridays, cook in the house, stretch food, stop buying clothes. You understand? Say no to a whole bunch of things so that it does stop with you. Make it a goal that your kid doesn't have to enter the game in debt. You did that. Let the buck stop with you. Now, I know everybody's financial situation is different. You understand? But the reality of it is that we can all make decisions. Like all of us on the call are adults now. You understand? A lot of the excuses that our parents made or adults made on why they couldn't do something, we're literally seeing that those realities are based on the decisions that they made. That wasn't like community based. That wasn't necessarily just because you was Black. That's because of the decisions that you made. You had 4 or 5 kids and didn't have stable income. Yo, that was your decision. You understand? You're seeing so many people wait years upon years upon years now to have children. Or the fact that people are having less and less children than they did in the past because they understand the financial responsibility that comes with having children. It's just not always a logical decision if you're already struggling financially to have multiple children who cost $1,000 a year for 18 to now 25 years, because now children are getting out of college and moving back home. You understand? We're making more logical decisions when it comes to those decisions. And hopefully, if our children decide to go to college or not, we can be there to help them throughout the process and not necessarily have them carry a burden that we have been pushing them towards, and understanding that, yes, the financial responsibility comes with it, but we should not be responsible for the price tag that comes with that reality. We should be responsible for every price tag that comes with every reality that we want, right? And that's the reason why people who do plan for those things, those outcomes are different, because the planning is different. That means the mindset that you instill in your child is very, very different. That means that when you're saying no to them getting whatever clothes, whatever trips that they want to go on as a kid, no to the candy, no to these things. Honey, the reason that I'm saying no, baby, the reason why I'm saying no is because you said you wanted to go to college, and that's what we do. We go to college, and that thing costs. So by us saying no now is going to give you an opportunity to meet the expectation that we've set for you and the goal that you set for you. And the reality of it is that when we create a mindset and an approach like that, our children replicate what we show, right? So when they now get into the space where they're launching from undergrad, they're launching from grad school, being financially responsible is not a foreign idea to them. I'm only now replicating what I've seen my parent do. So yes, I can say no to the $500 car note, and I can continue to hop on the bus, or I can continue to rent these scooters, or I can ride share, or whatever else the options are, right? Because sacrifice is now a norm of my reality, and I can now create a gap between struggle and now heading towards steady state. Appreciate y'all.
You got something, G?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks, Just, G, KG, Pizzle. So let's do one more rapid fire round. Well, not necessarily a round, but whoever wanted to share. But as I was listening, I took some notes, and this is what I came up with. So my confliction about, like, especially with kids, like sometimes we share these messages and all they hear is don't go to college, right? Don't go to college only applies to you if there is a plan with those years, right? Not just duck. I'm not going to college because I'm not going to be in debt. That's the same thing as, it's like if you want to make a trade, you gotta make a deposit and put the trade in. You feel me? Like you gotta. That's how you make the bread. Like you gotta put your $100 in. You take your 100 plus return, right? But if you don't have anything that's bringing you a return, don't go to college. Does not apply to you. But at the same time, maybe that should be our next episode. Go to college or not. Don't go to college. But if you do plan to go to college, make sure you have a plan. Right? So you got to be intentional about whether going or not going, right? Because although like I got bills, I'm sure some of y'all got college bills. One of the biggest things that college has done for me and for us is relationships. Everybody on this call is not 100%, but 95+% directly correlated with college, right? Met G in college, like instantly, right hand man. Me and KG known each other our whole lot, our entire lives, but we got a lot closer when we went to boarding school to prepare us to go to college because we was both home bored because our breaks were like way longer than the public school breaks. So like everybody else would be in school, and like it was just me and him home. So we started spending a lot more time together because we were preparing for college. Just C's, we were in the program to go to college. KP, met in college, right? So although we all got our different bills and different experiences and such, speaking for me and myself alone, those bills, due to my work, networking, and all those kind of things, is much more worth it than I would have thought in terms of education wise, right? Like just having this circle here, you know, in addition to Mace, and even in addition to other people who not necessarily in Game 7, the Rays, the Devons, the list goes on. You know, all of these other college educated people who aren't necessarily Game 7, but still people who are on our team. Like I lived with Ray for like 8 years. You know, that's my man that I met through college. So getting that social currency. Number two, another big thing about college is being more financially literate. Like I know G and I pivoted. I would love to look back to see what the state of was, but we were finance majors, but we were not informed. We shifted our major because of the crash, right? We heard a speech from Mr. Gray, Pizzle 2, Bring Your Groceries, and he was really, really big on supply chain management, which clearly has paid off for G. Like it probably was the right, hindsight being 2020, the right decision for him. Maybe, right? Or we could have stayed and not realizing like, yo, we quit in a time where people were making the most money. We just did not understand the game, right? Oh, the market can crash. Yeah, it's gonna crash every 7 to 9 years, bro. Like this is a regular thing. Nobody told us that, right? And that's a major reason, in my opinion, we were not prepared for last year, right? For the economic crash. We didn't really know too much about markets and the economy. G knew more than I, but I know he did not know anything in comparison to what he knows now. So all in all, the key to all this, especially if you're Black youth in this situation, is to get a mentor, right? To get a mentor and understand too, the best mentors, it ain't gonna be free. It ain't gonna be free. Especially like KG and I, we've met with countless people who've wanted their kids to be mentored by us, but we send them the invoice and they go missing, right? It's gonna cost you like, you know, maybe a pair of Jordans for a couple of sessions or so, but the information that you get, in our opinion, is priceless. Like for example, I wish. All right, so number one, like G, I think it was G, whoever said picking a major. Well, if you talk to somebody who's actually been through the experience already, they might can help you make a better decision. I know for me, I figured just college had all the answers, and my school had all the answers from my college counselor. He didn't even know me. He didn't even know me. He had no idea who I was. He was going off of grades. He was going off of how he saw me on campus. All of the schools that were provided to me by him, I didn't apply to. All of the boarding schools that were provided to me by my the organization that KG Justin I was in, I didn't apply to. I applied to all of my own schools each time. Like my family wasn't there to help me in that regard. They helped me get to that seat to be able to pick college, but they didn't really know. All right, well, maybe you should check out. I see the market is about to crash, so maybe you should get in finance so you can start investing as a sophomore, and you have a wave going for you when you graduate, right? Or you should just know that I see that people make money. Or I see that like real estate is here, so maybe you should go study real estate, even though that's not really business. Or you got this entrepreneurial thing going on. Business management, they say don't do it because it's very general, but you are a serial entrepreneur. This may be your wave, right? Or, bro, you just need to get a degree because you're killing it with this haircut situation. You already got your degree because you went to your certification. You went to vocational school in 9 through 12. So we're going to be very, very strategic about going to an HBCU where people need their haircuts. The haircuts you're giving out, Stanford's a great school, but you may not need that, right? So maybe you go to the Black Stanford at Howard, right? Or maybe you hit up HI, Hampton Institute, some kind of school like that. Or maybe, you killing it selling your T-shirts, you should go to Morehouse. But when you go down there, you're going to have an LLC. You're going to live off campus. We don't want that bread from the school. We're going to pay it with the money that you already generated. Or your father or your mother that bust their ass to get you in a situation will get you started. You just do the work. And you use these 4 years to get it going. And then we make sure we got the bread for you through the bank or through angel investors or whatever once you graduate. So just having some other people who've been through this situation can really help you a lot. And because we think, I'll speak for myself, like so much of it was formal thinking. Like all of the bread we spent on tables, bro, we could have just spent the table bread to throw the party and got the free table. All right? Now, it sounds simple. It does require a collective mindset to do those kind of things. But each time, free table. Or how I was DJing, like no LLC, I had to pay for all my equipment, all the things y'all did, that's bread right there. Or we all knew how to cook, like all these different kind of things, coulda, woulda, shoulda, with hindsight being 2020. But we didn't have no OGs to hip us to that information. And then lastly, which is probably most important in my life, having those mentors after school. The only mentor I had like right after school was like your job mentor to help you get thrown in the fire. There was no like Just said, like if you lived basically for free undergrad, use that same strategy when you graduate. We still all had roommates. We didn't blow all the money, but like I definitely wasn't intentional about it. But once again, I had nobody to tell me what to do. So I would say, all in all, find a mentor, right? And number 2 is you're gonna have to pay for them. Like the best information is not given out for free. And if they are a solid mentor, ideally they got things going on in their lives and their time is going to cost money. But I will also tell you that once you get that mentor and you prove to that mentor that you're worth the time, the price is going to drop. The price is going to drop. Like Jaleel can call me at any time for free. Any time of day, any location. It could be me and Nas. Like, I want Nas to listen, because the things poured into him is being poured out. Agnes can call me anytime for free. Julia can call me anytime for free. So really that mentor is kind of just like a startup cost, because if they're doing it, they care about feeding into the next generation. And once they see that you're feeding back, I pretty much guarantee you that those costs will drop. So get a mentor. Let's go back down the line for final thoughts, and then we out.
I'm gonna keep it quick because Ava's in here. So I think that the general sentiment, or if I could say everything you said in a different way, Mal, it's invest in yourself, but be strategic about how you invest in yourself. College is not the end. College is really just the beginning. Like you said, it's a commencement. It's the start of the rest of your life. So it's going to take a very mature and a very balanced teenager to start to put those pieces together in high school. But at this point, based on everything we saw today, all of the numbers, it's required. You have to do that. You have to start to make a plan. And parents, you have to help your kids start to make a plan at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. If you don't, you're already behind the curve. So you got to.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna be quick too, and I believe that excuse me, college is definitely something that I would say do just off the social power and things like that. So I agree with G. Once you make that plan, it can benefit you so much because it can be such an intentional plan that have you on the path that you won't really waste time, and you know what you're doing, and you'll still get to learn from that social point of view that college really gives you as well.
Last thing I would say is exposure, right? Expose yourself to different things, and it allows for you to even meet those mentors that Malcolm was talking about. A lot of programs and a lot of different things are filled with mentors and filled with people who want to give you information and kind of guide you along that process. So expose yourself to something new. The opportunity is available. Let's go ahead and take it.
I got just a two-part final thought to parents. Really, in order to see your children grow or your child grow, you have to grow. All right. It's important to remember that you're their leader. All right. And as you grow, it's important for you to instill or to share that information with them, so that now there's a collective mindset in your house that's different. And then children or young people or teens, as you listen to this, just seek information. All right. I know we made a comment, or Malcolm shared that, it costs to have a mentor, but obviously as a young person, it's important also to be able to take advantage of free information and free content. We live in a social media age. Find an individual, find a celebrity, find someone that you know that is in a place where you want to be. Learn their history, learn what path that they have gone on, and do your best to replicate that. You obviously will, put your own spin on it, and you will make the decision that's best for you and yours, and you'll tailor it. But to have that framework to work from is better than having no start point.
All right, thank you, fellas. Let's respond to these comments before we dip off. So, first one I see is you also have to consider the outrageous price of an education today. Savings from the Black community still don't add up enough to be debt free. Let's read these collectively. The outrageous price, savings don't add up enough to be debt free. I appreciate your conversation now, but those of you that started up with the SEEDS program or scholarships already had a leg up. Okay. So the cost, we had a leg up. And also consider that we lack the skills of financial literacy to start the process. I agree you need to start early, but you can't bash people that don't know where to start. I suggest through the schools you already have relationships with to help not just with the students, but the parents too. If the parents are not in the know, the children could already be doomed. So Ms. Kim, I think you kind of answered your question, or your responded to your comments at the end, right? So number one, the outrageous cost of an education today, savings don't add up. The work that you did, the work my parents did, the work that Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair did to get us prepared for SEEDS financially, outside of raising us, was free. I'm not sure if SEEDS had an application cost, that cost, and I don't know what other things that y'all might have paid for, but I know it was a program designed for low-income families, so I'm assuming that it wasn't that much. But the fact that y'all made us do our homework was free. The fact that y'all raised us with morals, values, and principles was free. The fact that y'all made the decisions to give us the registration on how to play for sports wasn't that fiscally demanding. Y'all just made decisions to raise us in a way to where we were prepared for those opportunities, right? However, some of that also comes down to us too, because we all got brothers and sisters who have a little different paths than us, right? So I think y'all understood the mountain that was approaching for us, and y'all made sure that no cost. All right, cool. No cost for SEEDS. Y'all made sure that we started to prepare to get that leg up, right? So we ain't have a leg up just because we had a leg up. Like, we worked for it. Now, where it came down to us is that we took advantage of the opportunities that y'all presented to us. Because speaking for KG and Just, we also know other people who had the same opportunities we had that they did not take advantage of. And once again, they was free. And as Just stated, in terms of your last comment about financial literacy, we're not bashing people that don't know. But as we always say, it eventually comes to a point to where you got to be held responsible. I remember I had made a reel a couple of weeks ago, and Nas had asked about stocks. He said something about stocks. He was like, Daddy, the part that I remember, he says, Daddy, all we do in the car is listen to homework. We not listening to music. He don't know all of the songs that everybody else may know. Maybe when he's with some other people who are responsible for him, he gets that. But not with me. Like stocks is the other day, he says, Daddy, you got it. I seen you buy some stocks. He don't quite get that the stock price is not my portfolio return, but I see him sitting here looking at the different tickers and looking at the candlesticks and all things. It's getting into his mind. When I asked him when we started the summer program, we had to drive to Jersey every week. He said, "What you mean? I'm Game 7 too." When me and Pizzle was in the car, he was like, I'm the Game 7 manager. I don't pay for nothing, and y'all do all the driving, right? But all of this stuff is already in his head, and he's only 7, right? Because I'm pouring it into him. And that doesn't mean he's going to turn out to be maybe what I want him to be perfectly, but I'm taking that responsibility to build his framework so he's in position, whether I got a whole bunch of income or not, to get those scholarships that Pizzle was talking about. Every year, especially me and Just, so many kids got all the resources in the world, but no resourcefulness. You give them a college application, a scholarship application for 50 G's, they can't fill it out. No 20-year-olds in 12th grade who couldn't spell their name, right? Or don't know how to show up. Or, they giving out scholarships downstairs for free, like during lunch. I don't want to go to that table. I don't want to be around no white people. You can get the scholarship. You don't have to go there. Like, put it in your back pocket or use it as a negotiation tactic with FAMU or something, saying that Hampton already gave you a scholarship and I need you to match that if you really want me to come down here, right? Or be in shape. Like, I can't tell you how many 6'3" dudes I seen in school. Like, you get an opportunity, you get a scholarship just because of your size. Hit you with a 90-day commitment, you drop down to ideal height and weight. You already crazy, bro. All you need is a helmet, you can get a scholarship. All right, so there's a lot of free things, YouTube resources that we can use to overcome those financial deficits, right? And we not bashing, we just telling the truth. If people perceive this as a threat, that's on them. That's my opinion. I'll let KG go first if you want to give any feedback. Anybody else, and then we out.
Nah, I don't think it's. I think there was some pretty good points being said, for sure.
I'll add one thing to piggyback off you, or to supplement what you said, Mal, in that when working in HR for DCPS, one thing that I used to always laugh at was you would see people come in and they would have a degree from MIT, and then you would see people who would come in and they would have a degree from Raynard College, University, whatever, and they would literally start at the same exact salary, right? One person seek the cheaper degree where they're paying a lot less to get that degree. The other person went to MIT, whether or not they got a scholarship or whatever reason it is. So I think it is very beneficial for you to seek those opportunities to achieve the same goal, just in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. I think at a certain point, though, we do have to be responsible for what we don't know, because what we don't know has been killing us generationally. It can no longer be like the victim mindset of like, oh, I wasn't able to achieve that because I didn't know, right? And I understand that the access to information was different in the past, but like for us as full-fledged adults right now in the information age, we can't have the same excuses that not excuses. We can't have the same reasons that our parents had for not being successful. And that's more so the message. It's not necessarily an attack on anyone, But if we were to replicate or have the same outcomes as our parents, that would be a disaster on our part, because the information is readily available at our fingertips. We just have to make the decision to go and engage in it. You understand? And I think that's the overall message of information, because the same information that is available on Google, it was available in the library too. You know, it's just that we didn't choose necessarily for that to be the norm of a place that we will go in the afternoons, on the weekends, things of that sort. So what we're saying is we need to change those norms. We need to change where we're hanging out, what kind of information we're interacting with, what we're listening to in the car, right? What's playing on the radio? There's no need to have the radio. What's the use of the TV, being turned on, right? It's okay if your kid doesn't know how to electric slide, being black. He knows how to be financially literate. You understand? And all of those things is just making that swap. And, it's just a mindset shift. And I think that's the reason why sometimes that will explain the difference in the realities for white people who don't have a degree and are more financially successful than black people who do have a degree, because there are certain norms in white families that will create an environment for them to be financially responsible, whether they go to college or not. Like, they have norms of financial responsibility, right? Whereas that's not necessarily true in our culture as a whole. Now, let's not also forget that, like, they're super, super, super wealthy, super successful black people in America that have been in that state for generations, right? Let's not feed into this narrative that all black people are poor and black people are not educated or don't have financial literacy, because that really depends on where you live, to be honest, right? When I came to this area, boy, my mind was blown, because my reality here and the reality of folks that have been here that look like me have been like this for the last 60, 70, 80 years. And I never would have thought so, being from where I'm from. And that's a beautiful thing, right? And just for that reality, that's what keeps me connected to here, because I want to ensure that my child understands that the norm that we experience here is their norm to own and for them to replicate. You understand? So I know I went off on a tangent, but I thought it was important to share that.
Good point, Jess. Good point, Jess. But even that too is about perspective, because this is a whole nother podcast. But it seems like the people who are from here, especially the DC dudes and women, not really the Maryland people, they kind of get it, but they don't understand. Like, they be so pressed to go somewhere else because they think the answer's in Atlanta, right? And then they come right on back. But all in all, a lot of the answers to the things that we raised today, to me, sounds like it directly correlates with education and relationships. Self-education, not formal education. So build your relationships, build that network. See you next week. Peace out.